Welcome to the SAP HR Mavericks Podcast, the podcast where the future of human resources meets the Mavericks who make it happen. I'm your host, Silvia Moreno Rodriguez, and today we are diving into the SAP HR Revolution of 2027. I'm here today with Luke Marson, an accomplished HR technology executive and solution architect, and known worldwide in the SAP SuccessFactors HCM community.
Yes, I've been working in the SAP space since 2008 and with SuccessFactors for about 10 or 11 years now.
Okay.
This year will be 10 years since I became a certified professional in Employee Central. So I've worked with numerous customers across the Americas and across Europe with SuccessFactors. I've worked on quite a number of different type of engagements, implementations, health checks, strategic initiatives, and helped advise customers on different strategies for implementation, post-go live, business as usual, and things like that. I'm also author of several SAP press books on SuccessFactors. So I've co-authored the SAP SuccessFactors HCM Suite Overview book and the Employee Central book, as well as written several hundred blogs over the years and articles for different publications or on the SAP community and for various other publications as well. So that's a bit about me.
All right. What do you like the most about SAP SuccessFactors? What is it that got you so hooked to write so many blogs and books and, be so involved in the industry for the past 10 years?
It's really about what the technology does. When you've worked with the SAP on-premise HCM software, it's very transactional.
Mm-hmm.
It's screened, it's info types. It's not intuitive. It doesn't support HR like SuccessFactors does.
Okay.
HR has evolved over the years, and as part of that evolution, the types of processes and the way that businesses want to manage those processes and the way employees want to be part of those processes has changed. I think the rise of the smartphone really changed how people wanted to access applications, not just personal applications, but also business applications. Whether you're a consumer accessing Amazon to buy something, or you're at work and you need to access somewhere to enter your time or respond to comments in your performance assessment, you want it to be simple and easy. And you want it to have a user interface and an experience that just makes things satisfying to get done. You don't want to have those frustrations, and you don't want to have to remember how to do something because you have to type a code in and then type another code and using the keyboard instead of just using your mouse, just point, click.
So in a way, it's like people nowadays want to use, the same level, want to have the same level of experience across, the whole employee life cycle, but also in your personal and professional life. Like at the end, the same that you access, as you said, your social media apps, Amazon or whatever, you want to have the same experience in your work apps.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't want to be going to work and using archaic technology.
Yeah.
And with all honesty, if you look at the SAP on-premise user interface, it doesn't resemble anything of the last.
It always reminds me of these very old, computer games. Actually, this interface is very.
Yeah, and I saw the SAP user interface when I was younger, probably in the early 2000s, maybe actually in the late 90s. And it's still the same as today, 25 years later. So, the way people consume applications and work with data and consume data has just changed so much in that time. And SAP SuccessFactors was a significant shift in how HR business processes could be delivered and could be utilized by businesses compared to what SAP had offered before that.
Yeah, I see that. So we will speak more about how SuccessFactors has been a revolution in the HR world and how they do it to keep ahead of the competition and keep evolving and delivering results. But let's take a step back because we still have on-premise. And the deadline for the on-premise sunset, let's say, it's 2027. So we are still working with that system. How do you see that evolving right now? How do you see the impact of the deadline of 2027 in the businesses that still use on-premise? Look.
So the end of maintenance is not going to mean that you cannot use your systems anymore, but it does mean that you won't be getting any critical updates. SAP will no longer be providing particular updates or other types of maintenance. Now, maybe for certain core HR processes, that might not be a big deal, but if you're running payroll, for example, then you're going to start potentially struggling to stay in compliance because you will have to maintain that system yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The main innovations in HR from SAP have been in SuccessFactors already now for some years. So if you are looking to use the latest and greatest capabilities in your HR processes, you will already be wanting to look at SuccessFactors in any case. So it's going to come to a point where businesses have to think about, how do we really want to manage our HR? Do we want to stay on this unsupported old system, or do we want to embrace the modern day? Do we want to start doing things in the new way as people expect it?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just necessarily about the end of maintenance. It's also about you as a business,
Okay.
and how you're doing what you're doing. And also, there becomes a point where people just don't want to stay working at companies where they're working with this old technology day in, day out. Maybe your casual employee that has to log in once or twice a year doesn't really care all that much, but there are some people that have to use these systems more. If you're onboarding an employee and they have to access this archaic system versus accessing the SuccessFactors onboarding application, the impression you're giving to that new person is significantly enhanced by using SuccessFactors.
Of course.
So there's various different reasons to look at moving to SuccessFactors. The end of maintenance is definitely one of those, and at some point, people are going to run into issues with the system because it's just no longer being supported by SAP.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 2.5 years away from today.
It's nothing now because time flies. We all know that, and especially if you need to migrate or do a new implementation and also rethink about your HR processes in the cloud and what can you improve, as you said, not only from a technology perspective, but as a company, the things that you want to change, that takes time.
Yes,
obviously resources, and
yeah, absolutely it does. And okay, we're not talking about 2-3 year long projects here. They can be, depending on if you want to completely overhaul everything.
Right. 2027 is around the corner, especially if you are considering a payroll transformation to the cloud, right?
Yes. And that means customers should be looking now at what that means and what that's going to look like. Depending on the country you're going to implement payroll in, or countries, there are specific times of the year where you want to go live, or where it makes more sense to go live. And so you have to work backwards and look at when you want to start. Now, do you really want to be going live on the 1st of January 2028?
No, probably not.
Exactly. So you want to look at going live with a safe amount of time before the end of maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that requires some planning. So that means really you want to be starting a payroll migration in 2025 or 2026, and that's only around the corner.
Yeah, it is. And also, let's not forget that you will need SAP consultants, which is a scarce resource, I would say. There are only a number of SAP consultants right now, and there's literally no time to train new people to perform the migration. And also, only in Europe, there are more than, 3,000 companies that still need to perform the migration?
Yes. And that's a real challenge that customers are going to face at some point. The longer you leave it, and the more customers that have to do it, the more risk there is that you don't find anybody to be able to do that.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, as you said, there's just a finite amount of people that have those skills, and there are not that many people learning those skills. Not a lot of people are getting trained up to being a employee central payroll or SAP payroll consultant. And it takes a long time to learn how to implement SAP Payroll and Employee Central Payroll. And if we start now, we cannot just train up more people by 2025, 2026. Sure, there's definitely scope to train some people, but to train the amount that are required, if everybody wants to do their implementations at the last minute, then that's just not a feasible scenario. So the sooner you can get this done and out of the way, the less risk there is.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely it will be cheaper, because when there's a lot of demand and not much supply, prices go up. That's just natural market forces at play. So if you have SAP Payroll on-premise and you haven't thought yet when you want to make that move, now is the time to start thinking about that, because it's going to take some time to plan that, to assess the ramifications of putting in new payroll. Now, it's not a monumental shift to move from SAP Payroll to Employee Central Payroll, but nevertheless, there are some changes in that, some technical, some functional. There's definitely some enhancements from going to Employee Central Payroll. The Payroll Control Center brings a whole new dynamic to your payroll processes and how you manage those and how those operate. But that's a change, and change still requires some effort within itself. There's looking at the budgets, there's looking at your own organization, there's buying subscription from SAP, there's finding the partner, there's getting contracts signed.
So you're almost mentioning a checklist, right, of all the things that you need to do in order to perform this migration. How can you kind of maybe summarize, or if you were to give advice to these companies, where they should start? Where would be the starting point for those considering the migration from on-premise to cloud?
So right now, I think first thing is the customers need to look at, when can we do this? When can we realistically go live with this new system? And then work backwards from there, because you might find it's quite not as much time as you want it to be, or you might find that the starting point is a lot sooner to today than you were maybe expecting it to be.
Yeah,
we're not talking about implementing a performance management system or a travel and expense system here.
That is not critical, business critical as payroll is.
Yes, and payroll takes some time. Now, with the right partner and the right implementation methodology, you can do that quicker than a brand new implementation of a new system. So there are partners and there are tools and methodologies out there. Mm-hmm. We have our Cloud Jump, for example, that can make that migration faster and easier, but it still takes time nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And there still needs to be a significant amount of planning done and preparation to make sure that the customers are ready to make that move. But the good news is there is time, but I strongly advise customers don't wait long to start looking at that. Okay,
message clear. Although I do have a question around this, and I need to ask because everyone that has been in the SAP industry for long, they know already that SAP has been postponing this deadline and end of maintenance a couple of times. what is your perspective on this? Do you think that they will postpone again after 2027 and it might become 2030, or who knows?
Well, the extension from the end of 2025 to the end of 2027 was already back in 2020.
Okay.
So it's around 4 years since they made that announcement. So they gave about 7 years notice.
Yeah.
I don't find it that likely at this stage that they will do that. You can't rule it out. But they've already made the extension once, and that should have been enough of a note to say, hey, okay, we're giving you this extra time, but that is really it. As I said earlier, they're not going to switch systems. They're not going to get switched off. They're not going to stop working overnight. You may still have another year in which you can keep using the system fine, but there's only a matter of time until that's going to become problematic.
Yeah.
And so there are some extensions that officially exist of maintenance. They're documented in an SAP note. Customers can find that note online and see what it says. But it's quite clear, even within that note, that there are certain circumstances in which they will grant that extension of maintenance, and it's not for all customers. And as you get closer to 2030, it becomes a much smaller number of customers that are eligible to get that extension. So they have a program in place, and that tells me that they're not willing to move that deadline from the end of 2027 again, because they've built some cushion in, and I think that's going to be the end.
Wow. Okay. I do feel the sense of urgency. If I were a customer, I would start thinking about it now. Maybe because I'm a planner, or I don't know. But yeah, I do feel this urgency coming up. Something to start considering indeed. All right. Thank you for your insights on this topic. I would like to talk more about SAP trends in general, because obviously I would say this is the biggest one, the 2027 deadline, but SAP is also working on different aspects and domains. In time management, for example, skill management. What do you have to say about this?
There's been a lot of innovation and new capabilities released in several different areas. Time management is definitely one that has had a lot of investment over the last few years. And we're really seeing a lot of that bear fruition in the market now. And it's different depending on where you are. In the US, there's still a lot of customers that are looking at some of SAP's partner solutions, like workforce software. In Europe, we're seeing a lot more of a move towards the SAP SuccessFactors time tracking solution. That's really where SAP have put a lot of their investment in the time management space over the last few years. And that is really now, I would say, ready for prime time for a lot of customers. And for some customers, that's been a blocker from moving to SuccessFactors in the last years. Core HR works, Payroll works. Time has not been where it needed to be. And SAP have now got that to where it needs to be.
So right now, would you say it's kind of safe to use that term, or for customers to move to time? Is time management in SuccessFactors ready?
I would say yes. I would say for most customers, they can go ahead and they can use what SAP provides now in time tracking. Time off has already been mature for some years, but now the time tracking has reached a certain level of parity with the time off solution. The other important innovation in the time space from SAP is the new S/4HANA timesheet. This really replaces the cross-application timesheet, or CATS, in SAP that has been quite popular, and another area which has been a blocker for customers to move. So if customers are using S/4HANA for their ERP and they need that similar CATS capability, it now exists. And it integrates with time tracking. So it's been built in conjunction between both the S4 and the SAP SuccessFactors teams.
Okay, I understand. Okay, Luke, my next question to you is about skill management. So can you tell us a little bit what is SAP doing in this space, which, at the moment, with everything changing, the current landscape, I mean, talent management and skill management has been a topic for a long time already, for some years. So we would expect that SAP is also evolving from a technology perspective in that area. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. Skills management it's not a new topic. It's been around for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I started working with SAP technology back around 2008, it was called qualifications back then in the on-premise and competencies. And these were quite integral in a lot of processes in SAP's on-premise talent management. So it's something that I think has been a bit of a gap in SuccessFactors up until now.
Okay.
But I'm pleased to see that it's there, and it's built using a lot of the modern technology capabilities that SAP have access to. They've refreshed the approach to skills management versus what I've seen in the past. And I think that is something that is very beneficial to customers.
Can you give us an example of, feature that is available in that module? Like some cool things that the customers can do with the talent module and the skills management in SuccessFactors?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different capabilities available. So, for example, the Talent Intelligence Hub. This is where employees can have their growth portfolio. It's where skills can be assigned, they can be rated, and then with that essentially skills profile that can be used for identifying development opportunities. It can be used in succession planning. There's a number of different areas where you need people for a specific project internally, for example, or you're hiring for a new role internally, and you want to see who in the workforce might be capable for this role or capable for this new job that you're advertising for. And so with these skills assigned to employees and with a library that you can use, you can do a lot of matching of finding people based on the skills, and not just on other data, what position they in, or where's their location, and things. Skills is really what drives what people do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so this capability has been missing, but that gap has been closed. And then there's the use of machine learning and AI within that. So, for example, there's the ability for the system to find people based on skills. And you also have skills inference and these other capabilities to help identify people's skills based on various different data.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how accurate or successful that kind of capability is going to end up being, but it's something that hasn't existed before, and it's certainly a way for companies to be able to adopt a deeper skills management initiative than they might have been able to do in the past.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Is it linked to performance management, to the performance model and successions? Because I can imagine from a customer point of view, I would like the skills to be linked somehow to the performance. So, for example, I can set some objectives for my team and then link it to specific skill sets that they need to develop in a year or two or whatever, and then also, match it together with a succession plan. So, in my head, it all looks beautiful and integrated together. I don't know if that's the case at the moment.
Oh yeah, that's possible as well. So you can pull skills in performance forms, and you can rate them as you would expect.
Yeah,
because that's the place where you would expect managers and employees to do the ongoing assessment of skills.
of course. On to our next topic. And of course, nowadays, you are no one if you don't talk about AI, artificial intelligence. So, of course, we had to speak about this super trendy topic. Okay, Luke, tell us a little bit about the role of AI in SAP's HR solutions.
Yeah, so of course, if you don't talk about AI, you sound like you're not keeping up with the trends. And if you do talk about it, you sound like, so I was talking about
Again,
AI.
yeah.
But no, AI is an important topic. And it's funny, but some of the AI capabilities that exist in SuccessFactors are actually not new. Some of these capabilities have already existed for a few years now, before everyone was even talking about AI.
Okay.
So as we have a range of different AI capabilities in their suite, I think the first one to mention is Joule, the chatbot that works across SAP's entire suite of solutions in S/4HANA, SuccessFactors, and so forth. Then there are capabilities like being able to use generative AI to create job descriptions, for example, or you want to write a job posting, for example. So you have that capability, which I think is another one people would expect. But there are capabilities to review text, say in a performance review or in a job listing, to make sure you have neutral language, inoffensive language, and so forth.
Is that free for customers, Joule?
It's a good question. All the AI features are included within the subscription.
Good to know. Mm-hmm.
There are some advanced features that have some licensing impact based on usage, but the core SuccessFactors capabilities. So Joule is an SAP-wide capability, but the SuccessFactors specific capabilities within those solutions is included in the existing subscription already.
Mm-hmm. Great. No, I was asking because I guess, of course, customers want to use it as much as possible, and use Joule might be better and more secure than using Copilot, for example, or when you are talking about performance reviews, I was thinking about confidentiality, and you don't want to use any other AI tool that is not, let's say, that doesn't protect the data or the information. So of course it makes sense that you would use Joule because it's SAP and it protects the data and the confidential information that you can put in performance reviews. So yeah,
for sure. We will cover this in more detail in a future episode, I feel.
Oh, really? Can you give us more details about that?
Well, without giving too much away, we are planning a couple of episodes featuring one of our colleagues who's a specialist in AI in HR, and one that's going to cover more specifically some of the capabilities which are offered within SuccessFactors. So we won't go into more detail today, but maybe that's something to keep you interested for the future.
So Luke, you have joined SD Worx pretty recently. I think it was in June, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit more why you joined SD Worx and a little bit on what we do in the HR solutions landscape?
Yeah. SD Worx, it's a well-known company, particularly here in Belgium, but also across Europe. SD Worx has been around for almost 80 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's long.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a really long pedigree. Working in the payroll space, mostly for that time. And people that know me will know that I have a passion for core HR and payroll from the last decade or so. And so it seemed a good fit for me at the time. And certainly still agree with that assessment that I made before I joined. I mean, it's amazing. SD Worx is about 8,000 employees across more than 25 countries in Europe.
Yeah.
So it's no small player by any means. And our SAP solutions practice is more than 800 employees, and we put a really strong focus on core HR, payroll, and time management in the cloud with SAP SuccessFactors.
Yes, we also partnered with Workforce Software and UKG for the workforce management piece.
Yes, we can deliver SuccessFactors time tracking, but I think a lot of listeners will know that in some cases, some customers have some quite strong level of complexity and require a different type of solution. And that's why we're able to offer Workforce Software and UKG. And in fact, I didn't realize this until I joined, that our Workforce Software practice is the biggest in Europe.
Yeah, that's massive. Huh?
Yeah, and we do a lot of work with Workforce Software because of the size of our practice and our ability to help support them as well. So yeah, I mean, that gives us different options for our customers depending on exactly what their complexity is and what their needs are.
Exactly. I would summarize it at the end that, we have an HR solution for your HR problem, let's say, and that we can do end-to-end HR from core, payroll, time, and also talent for any company size and complexity.
Yep, and I don't think we should forget to mention that SD Worx has its own payroll solutions, our own IP, which is for smaller company or country populations than SuccessFactors. So for those customers that have the large populations, we can put those onto Employee Central Payroll, and for the smaller populations, we can use our own IP. So we can give customers a complete solution to cover their end-to-end countries from a payroll perspective.
Yeah, that's correct. And I believe a true value proposition indeed and differentiator in the market.
For sure.
Great place to be then. We are very happy to have you, Luke.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Thank you so much, Luke, for the great conversation and insights. To wrap up a little bit, today in the first episode of the SAP HR Mavericks podcast, we have talked about the deadline of 2027, which is the time that the existing SAP on-premise customers have to move to the cloud, which is obviously a big topic at the moment. We have also touched base on the SAP's approach to time management and what are the different options, updates, and benefits of the different solutions that SAP offers. This was it for the first episode. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Luke. Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, but I would encourage listeners to follow the SD Worx SAP Solutions LinkedIn page so that they can receive the next episodes that we release in the future.
Yes, great idea. And then if you put your email address, you will be the first to be notified when the next episode is released.
So stay tuned for the next episodes of the SAP HR Mavericks podcast.
Yes, looking forward to speak to you again. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Luke, for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.